because otherwise you feel stuck. They dance, they move their body, the energy actually comes out of the body and you feel amazing. You could dance, which is why I'm not saying only, you could dance as an expression of your real self.
Okay, sounds like you should first work on yourself before you go dancing. Often it's like the other way around. People just go dance. Welcome to the Bachata Café, a podcast about dance, connection, and psychology. So today's guest is Antonio Laguna. Antonio is an identity coach for dancers and the creator of the inner dancing method, where he helps dancers heal unconscious patterns and develop confidence and authenticity through dance. Antonio, really happy to have you here.
Thank you so much, Eddie. It's a pleasure to be here.
Nice. Antonio, maybe just the first question or to start, you often say like that dance reveals like who we really are. Why does dancing expose so much about a person's inner world?
I think that dance connects with a part of us that in psychology they call it the unconscious. So maybe you or your viewers know about this iceberg type of model in which the conscious is just the tip of the iceberg and then the unconscious is super deep. For some reason, dance, it's not really possible if we are not dancing with what we call muscle memory or like, things that they are a little bit more in the body, not so much in the mind. And when we involve the body already carries a lot of different, as you call them, patterns. Some of them, they are, let's say, more helping us towards achieve our goals. And some others, they are a bit more limiting us. So whenever we dance, we are very exposed to all of those patterns. And we don't have so many strategies of how to mask them out. Like, for example, in relationships or at work. So always when you observe someone dancing and they're showing a bit more insecurity or they're showing this need to be in the spotlight or all these things, those are just representations of their internal world that they are coming out in the dance, but they are not coming from the dance. They're, let's say, deeper.
Okay, super interesting. There popped like a lot of questions in my mind. So what would you say? Would you say that you can, if you observe or watch someone dancing, doesn't matter if leader or follower, could you say how he's dancing, who his identity is or personality?
So, what is the identity behind? That's a much broader question. But for sure, you can observe. And I think not only me, I'm not like a guru or God, is pretty much everyone. Can you feel that that person is dancing for real? Or is that person performing a little bit? Can you feel that that person is comfortable inside of their body? Or are they also looking for external validation? Can you feel that that person is really connecting with who they have in front? Or are they more stuck in their mind? All of those are representations within the dancing context of something that is already deeper inside. So because of my line of work, I have already worked with many dancers and the patterns are always the same. Oh, I cannot connect with my partner. Okay, so that already tells me that there is a block in the capacity that you have for connection in general as you, not because it's dance oriented. And that might be a single thing or that might be multiple things. But it's how it goes. So yeah, basically the short answer is if you know how dance is going to bring up the topics, it doesn't have to be me to identify them. Like pretty much everyone could gain awareness of it. And actually something that I'm working on is a little bit of a map of things that are showing up in your dance and what do they actually mean, let's say internally, so that people can use dance and the things that are bugging them on dance to see, okay, well, If Antonio is saying that if I have this, I have this, maybe I need to look into working on this if that is something that I would like to do with my life, right? To grow or to
Yeah.
develop myself.
Yeah, sure. How would you say then? I mean, it's so nice to have the discussion with you because there's so many points we could talk about and go deeper, dive deeper into those things.
Sure.
Now you mentioned like if you wanna work on maybe those things, could you reveal like some patterns you said you had like they're like in common, there are always the same patterns or usually the same patterns in most of the dancers. Can you give us some examples? What are those patterns and maybe also how you can work on them or how can you reveal it? How can you make it clear to yourself?
Of course. I think that most dancers that come to ask questions or come to work with me, they always have the same one of, I want to be more confident. Okay. What does that mean? Because how do you build confidence? How do you become more confident? Um, I think that there is a difference between building confidence externally, which is going to be more for the ego, or building confidence internally, which is in the identity level. That's why I like to work in the identity level. What does it mean to work in the identity level? You need to become it to be able to change it. If you try to do something, but you don't become the person that actually does it, it's not going to work. You're always going to revert back to the identity that you had before, to your previous default mode. So, for example, talking about confidence, how does one become more confident? In my opinion, there's only one way of actually becoming very, very confident, which is to make peace within yourself with yourself. And how do you do that? Well, you have a lot of things that you don't like about yourself. We all do. That part is called the shadow. It's this Jungian psychology. The more that you keep judging yourself, the more that you keep not honoring your boundaries, the more that you keep talking down on yourself, the more that you keep, doing things for others instead of for yourself. The more that internally there is a part of you not trusting you to be the captain of the ship. Like you're not making the decisions that is the best decision for, let's say, both of you. The internal you and the you that is right now making the decisions. So that part of you doesn't trust you. That part of you doesn't feel loved. That part of you feels rejected, abandoned, pushed away. Therefore, real confidence you're not going to have because you don't have that trust in yourself to fulfill your word, to take care of yourself, to love yourself. That is confidence. To me, confidence is I am confident that I'm going to be able to deal with whatever life throws at me because I have that peace already within myself, that safety within myself. So there's a whole lot of industry trying to sell confidence as mm, performance based, like, yeah, learn these things and then you will feel confident. I've worked with world class dancers or CEOs that they don't feel confident. I mean, they do in certain moments, but there are other moments that don't. So it's deeper than that. That's why I like to work in the confidence level, in the identity level. Another pattern that a lot of people bring is that feeling stuck, feeling that they're not progressing enough. They're comparing themselves is always, intertwined there. And that's again back in the internal world, which is where I like to work. Are you accepting your level? Are you accepting the path that you have? Or are you thinking, I should be like this person, or I should be farther by now? I should be, again, you're talking down to yourself. You're not finding that acceptance, that love, that reassurance within yourself. Now, everything that you do on top of that is not going to, it can't be okay because the foundation is messed up. Those are the type of things. So whatever would come as a problem of someone having, in the end, it's like, okay, in the identity level, how are you dealing with that? Because everything else that is on top is just a house of cards, you know? Like if I flick the foundation, everything is coming down.
If you want to be part of the Bachata community, follow the Bachata Café Podcast. Okay, interesting point. So, to sum it up, is it what you're saying? The first level or layer is really to work on the identity or slash confidence, because that is the foundation for all the other topics. So, also for dancing, then later. So, on the dance floor and off the dance floor.
Yeah. Like it doesn't matter how many other things you do, buy, learn, teach, whatever, if you don't embody them, if you're not being that, it cannot work. So I've seen this also in dance itself. In bachata, there was this analogy that I learned, and it's also very beautiful from Evelyn La Negra. She was teaching that if you don't know how to do a move naked, you don't really know the move. Like if you don't know the basic of where it comes from and the most foundational level, you don't fully own it and you're comfortable with that, you don't know how to do the move. On top of that, you can add whatever you want. But the foundation has to be there. This is the same framework, but applied into your personality. If you don't know how to be confident with yourself, let's say naked, yourself teaching, yourself doing dancing, yourself in relationships, yourself whatever, it's also not going to be okay because it's already flawed from the beginning. You cannot compensate it, which is what most of us try to do, compensate.
Okay, so this would lead me then to another, let's say challenge maybe the point of view. Would you then say like the people come to bachata only to seek validations or to run away from things they don't want to work on?
I don't like definitives like always, never, only, because as a coach, I also know NLP, and those words are already limiting. They're already creating boxes. I would say that I've seen a lot of people that they do it for that reason. I think that it's better than drugs or better than alcohol and other type of addictions. It's another way that we have to cope with emotions and to express emotions. Great. Now, can it be done in a little bit of a healthier way? Yes. That's also one of the pillars of why I do what I do. But definitely I've seen a lot of people that because through dance you're able to express those patterns that it's, let's say, energy that needs to keep flowing and come out, because otherwise you feel stuck. They dance, they move their body, the energy actually comes out of the body and you feel amazing, you connect, you produce all of these hormones, right? They feel good enough to patch it, whatever they are going through. And they're like, I don't need to work on that. I don't want to look at it. But then they're stuck in this cycle of, then I keep needing more and more dance. And that's why we start with once a week going to dance, then twice, then 3 times. Then all of a sudden I'm going to every single congress, every single masterclass, spending money that I don't even have in dance just because it's the only way that I've known to cope with that, let's say, void. Indeed, there is another option. You could dance, which is why I'm not saying only. You could dance as an expression of your real self. But first, then you need to know what is your real self. to actually look inside, to actually do some internal work and to see what is it that you like, what is it that you don't, what is it that you are, what is it that you're not. And from that, dance.
Okay, sounds like you should first work on yourself before you go dancing. Often it's like the other way around. People just go dance and maybe they are then confronted with all those topics because they see it in the dance or everything what's around the environment and so on. Maybe also to ask you, like before you started your inner work, because it seems like that you've been a lot of through, like who you were on the dance floor before you started to become the coach and all the knowledge that you have.
So I just want to point out, it's not that you need to do the inner work before you dance, because I believe that the journey itself, it's perfect. Like it is perfect already that you are a little bit more messed up and that you're trying to find this validation in the dance. Then it's perfect that you're struggling and that you're stuck. So then you're trying to find some more answers and then you find the inner work. It's perfect. Like to someone that doesn't have the pain, it's not going to want to do the inner work because it's work. It is work. It's not super nice all the time. My journey, as an example of that, I have struggled with my internal world for as long as I can remember because I have this sensitivity that I connect with things in a deeper layer than most of the people that were around me when I was growing up. That got me into trouble. That got me into bullying. That got me into being judged and shamed and, laughed at. Also with an injury from my knee that got me out of physical activities for 5 years. During my teenage years, yeah, that wasn't fun. For me, dance was a reconnection with my physical body after many years of not being able to do any sports. And all of a sudden, I started finding this, what I said, this kind of patch of like, okay, here it does feel a little bit better than all the stuff that I have been dealing with in my life. What happened is that there is a point that that patch is not enough. And even dance itself starts to really trigger the hell out of you. And that's when I'm starting noticing that I was using dance as a way to feel good. And now also within the dance, I'm not feeling great because there are some other patterns coming up in dance that forced me into looking inside therapy, coaching, spirituality. I did men's work, so men's circles. And the more that I would deep dive into those topics, the more that I would be, okay, so this is how I function. This is how it works. That's why I feel like that. And that's why I also feel like that in dance. And the more that I would go to dance and I would see the patterns keep happening, but now I would be able to, let's say, see them in another light. I would still be triggered, but now I was like, with time, you learn tools valuable enough to feel better, to regulate, to make that trigger not to take control of the whole night or the whole dance or a competition or whatever. And then people started asking questions like, hey, I see you different. You're definitely growing. You're dancing better. You're connecting better. What are you doing? Then I started giving some advice. Some people came back, hey, the advice that you gave me really works. Thank you so much. And this and that. Until some people started, hey, have you ever thought about doing this professionally? And I was like, at the beginning, I was an engineer in cybersecurity in Amsterdam. I was like, what the? Yeah, that is not me. Identity level. That is not me. And I didn't entertain the idea until life put me in a dichotomy of like, there is so much boredom and lack of purpose here, even though it's safe and it's known, that I went through 2 burnouts.
Oh.
Not because of lack of, capabilities or whatever, but I just bored out of my mind. It really I really lost interest in everything that I've been doing for the past almost 10 years. And I found sometimes that I could coach people, I would find these super mega spark inside of me of like, this is exactly what you need to do. And it was a very difficult transition because it's about living 10 years of your life and your whole identity of who you think you are behind to create something as random as to coach dancers into how to understand themselves better through the things that are happening in dance and how to build better lives. So, yeah, it was a journey. And now we are kind of like on the other side of it. Now things are working, and I can only look back with a lot of, pride and a lot of gratitude for that guy. But in the moment, yeah, for sure. That was an interesting transition.
If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a dancer from your bachata community. Write in the comments what your thoughts are about today's topic. And if you want to learn more about bachata, connection, and psychology, follow the Bachata Café Podcast. If you want to be part of the Bachata Café community, I will see you on the dance floor.